behind me, we've got a jet that has muscles. I mean, look at this thing. We've got the SR-71. This is a variant. It's got an aft end that's actually a YF-12. We'll get to all that in a second. But today what's going on is they're actually dropping this SR-71 down off of the stands that it's on. This whole team behind me is doing that. And then they're essentially gonna set it up to be taken out of this part of the museum and put in another section. But we're gonna talk quickly about some basic facts of the SR-71. And then the most important one being that it is basically built to have muscles. Like, look at this thing. It's incredible. It's painted black to dissipate heat because it could get up to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface of the aircraft, which is just insane. And if you look at the engines back here, there's actually a diamond pattern in the afterburner that comes out of these engines, and it can continuously afterburn, which is just wild. But the reason it would do that is because it was getting up to Mach 3.3, 2,164 miles per hour. And there's a diamond pattern in the afterburners. So it's like this thing's blinging. It's like, yeah, I'm so cool. I'm gonna be blinging. I'm gonna go faster than anything out there, the fastest jet ever created. And yeah, need some diamonds in the afterburner, no big deal. So as we walk through this thing, we're gonna talk about some facts about it, but most of all, I wanna focus on this team of airmen behind me that are actually a crash rescue team, and they're gonna be putting bags underneath this SR-71, and then they're gonna be dropping it to the ground so that it can be towed out. And this is gonna be a series of videos, so you're gonna see today the way that they're setting it up and the way that they're allowing this jet to drop down. 170,000 pound jet, by the way, when it's fully fueled. It's about 60,000 pounds or so as it sits dry. But a lot of times what they would do with these aircraft is they would take off with a minimal amount of fuel, and they would have to reach a tanker within 7 minutes because the, this is just wild. The gas tanks in this thing were basically like a bucket where the edges were not connected. And so it would drip on the tarmac because the structure of the gas tanks, when they got up to altitude, the pressure, the friction, the heat would actually make them seal together, and then this thing could actually be fueled and filled up to 170,000 pounds. So they would have to hit the tanker within 7 minutes. You're talking about a really intense pressure cooker situation where, as the pilot, you're thinking, all right, I've got to get to the tanker. I can't have disconnects. I've got to go right in and be successful. So just a super cool way that this thing operated. But now we're going to take a peek at this team as they set up the structure to get this thing lifted off the ground. So this team, like we talked about a second ago, they're gonna be dropping this 60,000 pound airframe, 170,000 pounds fully fueled. But I just want you to take a peek at the SR-71 and how big of a project this really is. I mean, to put it in perspective, they're using crash bags that you would use to move like a bulldozer or a massive vehicle and get that lifted up off the ground. They're gonna be using multiple of those bags underneath this. So we're gonna be going through the process with them and watching this team make it happen. It's gonna be awesome to watch. But for now, check out the structure of the SR-71 behind me. Just the clean lines of this thing. The way that the wings are built just makes it look like it just hit the gym every single time you see it. No big deal, it's just swole everywhere it goes. Could you imagine too, it's like this thing just transforms, like as I'm filming this video, behind me just transforms into a transformer and like jumps out of the museum. One of the keys that they're doing is they're getting this grid lined up so that it can support the 60,000 pound aircraft. So all these different things like playing Jenga down here are basically part of the structure. You engineers out there, much smarter than me, can probably tell me in the comments what they're actually doing. And we'll talk with one of them here in a second as well. But they're a little bit busy if you can't tell. So I don't want to be that guy that's like, hey guys, stop building this structure and talk to me right now. We'll get to them in a second. But for now, I just think it's cool seeing the different places that they're strategically putting the support systems. Because again, you don't want to put too much support in one area or not enough in another area. And think of like a car, you've got a frame. So you want to make sure that you're putting these support structures on strategic parts of the aircraft. So this team has done research on the SR-71 prior to actually moving it, and that's allowing them to put the support structures in places where it's not going to hurt the jet. All right, so they're building more. We're getting closer. we've got the different points of contact where you're gonna have the structure of the jet actually being hoisted up with the crash bags. And here's this really cool thing that I wanna show you. So these are those gauges. So this is the gauges that each of the crash bags are going to be read off of so that they can tell how much PSI is actually going to those crash bags. The thing that's interesting to me is the PSI. Look at this, 15 PSI, that's the maximum. So these crash bags, they're gonna operate somewhere around 5-ish PSI because they don't need a ton of PSI because there's so much air, and the compartmentalization of the crash bag allows them to be super structurally sound and actually maneuvered as the aircraft is being lifted up and down in a way that you wouldn't be able to do if you had an extreme amount of PSI that you were worried about. Also with these things, since they're operating in dangerous environments, they can be slashed and not like explode. Because imagine if you had a crash bag that had like 500 PSI. You slice that bad boy, see ya, that thing's gonna be gone. So in this case, you have an environment where you could slice it on something. I mean, I don't know, look at this jet. This jet's probably got places to slice things on that we don't even know about, just because it's so advanced. So in any type of crash scenario or a scenario like this, you really want to have something that could be slashed and not just light off like a balloon and ruin everyone's day. Do you want to tell me just kind of what you guys are doing and the strategic way you're placing the different crash bags?
Yeah, so what we're doing here is we're setting up dunnage, and dunnage will get us to 50% of the height that we're lifting.
Okay.
And then from there, we'll put our inflation bags up. So the front ones will be lifting up the aircraft, and the rear ones will be so it doesn't dip back.
Nice. And did you guys like look at a diagram of the SR-71 prior to coming to see exactly where you should put them?
Yeah. So we
cool.
have it on strategic points. It's not just put randomly.
Yeah.
These are going to be points that can handle the weight of the aircraft going up.
Gotcha. That'd be funny if you're just like, no, we're just going to try this out.
Yeah.
We're just going to give this a shot.
We're just testing it, you know?
Yeah, it's like you get one shot at this,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So are these crash bags, what else have you used the crash bags for?
So we've used these on the F-35 before.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, and we actually lifted this aircraft last year.
Nice.
With the same exact bag setup.
Okay, and so what's going through your mind as you're pumping up the bags, and kind of like walk me through kind of what you're thinking as you're monitoring the different gauges?
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're monitoring the pressures to make sure that they're not exceeding the limits.
Nice.
And those limits are all written down in our TO, which is a technical order.
Yeah, cool. How'd you get into this? Like, what's your main job? Is this what you do?
So before I was in this position, I did. I'm a crew chief by trade.
Yeah.
So I worked on the F-35, and then you get put into this assignment where you wheel and tire and crash recovery.
Can you tell us about these gauges real quick?
Yeah, so these gauges are what hook up to our airbags, and each one you will control just like this, and then you can monitor them. And then
Nice.
this will hook up to a cart, and that cart will supply all of the pressure that inflates our bags.
So how do you know which one of the numbers to pull?
So
Or
each hose that we have has a number on the end, so that way you can hook up to the bag and know which gauge it's hooked up to.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So how much of an adjustment do you have to make once you get the bag set up? Is it a lot?
So once it's hooked up, you'll fill up your contact bags first.
Yeah.
And those ones will range anywhere from 1 to 3 PSI about.
Nice.
And then you have your lift bag, so you just start lifting up.
Yeah.
And then eventually it's your gap bags.
Yeah.
And then once it makes contact, the next bag that starts inflating is your lift bag.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So do you think that you'll get a flight in the SR-71 because of this? Because you're helping them out?
What was that?
You think you'll get a flight in this thing now? They'll
Definitely.
like fill it up after this?
Yep. I got it. I'll fuel it up too.
All right, let's take it. It's
Yeah.
got 2 seats.
It does. It does.
You imagine?
Yeah.
We just like get it lifted up, get it out of here, and we're like, cool, we're gonna take this for flight now.
Exactly. We can take it to a drive-through.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
In and out?
Yep.
All right, in and out. Here we go. All right, it's on me.
Oh, nice. There you go.
Actually, it's got to be on someone else here. Look at these guys.
Yeah, they got it. Well, we'll get them something.
We'll get them something.
Yeah, we'll get them something.
We'll get them at least like a, I don't know, what do you think? Like
French
a
fry, just
French
to share.
fry?
Just to
French-
share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not working hard enough.
Yeah.
They're crushing it, man. Hang on, let's see if that. We'll do it one more time.
Do a burnout.
We should all get one of those things.
Oh, yeah.
I feel left out that I didn't get one of those little gators.
You could probably trade this in for 2 of those at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This thing probably carries those like in some secret compartment.
Oh yeah.
Just drops down and it's like side by sides.
Yep.
And we're just like
Oh,
raging
yeah.
in those things.
It's like the Batmobile.
Yeah. All right, so I'm here with Diva. And Diva, what's your job title?
Crash recovery team member.
Nice. And you just made that up yourself because you thought it sounded cool?
Definitely.
You didn't want to throw in like crash recovery mastermind?
Well, I could do crash recovery forklift certified.
Ooh,
Yeah,
all
there you
right.
go.
I see what you did there. That's awesome, man. All right, so talk to me about what these structures are and like why you built it the way that you did.
Yeah, so this right here is going to be our dunnage, and we build them to reduce the height that our bags are lifting. So the higher you get with bags, the more unstable it is. So instead of starting on the ground, we're starting at a higher level.
Nice. Okay, cool.
And the importance of them is you stack them in a way where the weight gets fully distributed throughout each piece across the whole platform.
Awesome. And so this structure allows the weight to be evenly placed, and then it's going on throughout the entire structure in the middle.
Yeah.
Cool. And how'd you learn how to do this, or is it just kind of like Lincoln Log, like makes
YouTube.
sense? YouTube. Nice. You learned it from, and they're learning it from my YouTube channel now.
Yeah, we go through a crash recovery class in Shepherd Air Force Base.
Nice.
And then we also do one here.
Okay, cool. And you said, what jets have you worked on before?
I've been on the 35.
The F-35?
Yeah.
Nice. No big deal.
Yeah.
Diva's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Just modest about it.
I'm the most humblest, modest man you'll ever meet.
It's like the humble brag. You're like, just the F-35.
Exactly.
I just do crash recovery. No big deal. Cool, man. Well, thanks, bro. When, are you guys going to lift it like one bag at a time or all bags at the same time?
Yeah, so we do. So we'll have it set up where we can start with one section and then a separate section.
Okay. Awesome. So this one's going to be like higher?
Yes.
Okay. Obviously makes sense
Yeah.
to get the nose, since it is higher, it's got to go up higher, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And then those back ones keep it from falling, you said?
So those are tip back bags.
Awesome.
So in the event that we get high, that way it doesn't fully we'll go back.
Sweet. All right, so I feel a little bad. You guys are doing all the work, but it's super cool to see. So this is dunnage that they're creating, and they're building these structures underneath it like we talked about before. And those in the back, like Diva told us, those are going to keep the jet from going, well, bam! That'd be a bad day for everybody.
Ready? 3, 2, 1.
This corner's got to come this way. This corner needs to come this way.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1. Table. Down. Alright.
This corner needs to go that way a little bit.
How
Just like an inch.
I'm gonna be over like crazy. That's good.
This is good.
That's good. If you do that. Alright, that should be fine. Somebody brush this shit off.
All right, so while they're doing that, I want to talk to you about these landing gear. So an issue that the SR-71 was running into was that the landing gear were melting when it would go up into the aircraft, and the temperatures would reach 600 to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So what they did is they intertwined aluminum and latex to make these landing gear. They'd be good for about 20 landings max, and you can imagine how much these bad boys cost, having aluminum tires. No big deal. So these would swing up into the jet, up into here. So you can see that. They would swing up into there, and they would need to not melt at speeds that were 3.3 Mach. So just impressive engineering, even on little simple things like the landing gear. We'll give you a close-up of the landing gear now. All right, so we got bag number 1 on. About to get some hot air in here, if you know what I'm saying. All right, so we've got all 3 of the platforms in place, as you can see. And this one's gonna go up the highest. So It's about to get real. All right, so while we're getting ready to lift it, I want to talk to you about the cones that are on the SR-71 engine. So this is essentially like a throttle control or an air control that's determining the velocity of the air that's going into the engines all the time. Could you imagine if I was like, hey guys, keep it down over there? I'm just kidding. They're like working super hard and I think it's all about me. Typical pilots. But yeah, they're throwing that bag on there. But anyway, we got this cone, and what the cone is gonna do is it's gonna direct the air into the engine to keep the air subsonic. Because if the air gets supersonic and then gets rammed into the engines, it's basically gonna cause a catastrophic compressor stall and the engine's just gonna stop working. And that wouldn't be the best if you're up at 80,000 feet, which this thing can fly at even plus, 80,000 plus. So you wanna make sure that these engines are getting the exact right speed of air at all times. So this thing's gonna direct the air in a subsonic way into the engines, which are, oh by the way, traveling supersonic. So the discs inside the engine, the fans that are inside of there are gonna be spinning at a supersonic rate. And the only time this thing comes out of afterburner is when it's refueling. At all other times, you've essentially got a continuous afterburning engine. And again, that's why you get that awesome diamond pattern out of the back. So, little side note there on the SR-71. Now back to the bags that are lifting it. And don't worry, I'll do a full SR-71 video once we get this SR-71 to its new home. And I'll have access to that to show you guys all of that. You can also come check it out. It's at the Hill Aerospace Museum. Super cool place. We're gonna be doing a ton of work today and you're along for the ride. Again, this will be a series of videos. So definitely tune into the next set of videos to just see this thing arrive at its new home. And now I'm gonna give you a close-up inside the engines of the SR. Get the lights shine down in there. And you can just see all the different structures in there. The way that they're built are to control the airflow, controlling the way that air enters that supersonic turning turbofan, and the multiple turbofans that it turned is just crucial, making sure that's happening correctly. What's up guys, here I am, SR-71 behind me. The interesting thing about this is actually a YF-12, which was a precursor to the SR-71. So the way that it started was the CIA basically built their own SR-71. It then became the YF-12 for testing, and then it became operational as the SR-71. It was built because President Johnson realized that the U-2 was susceptible to Soviet missiles, and he wanted something a little bit faster, just a little bit faster. He basically tasked America to build an aircraft that could outrun Soviet missiles. So here we go, Mach 3.3. And this jet looks like it works out. It looks like it has muscles. So it's obviously near and dear to my heart. This thing's been in the gym. But at the end of the day, looking at the airframe and seeing how this thing is basically a structure that's built to hold massive engines on top of it. I mean, it's insane. So you're looking at Mach 3.3. The crisp, clean lines on this thing are stealth as well. So you've got stealth, you've got Mach 3.3, and you've got some of the most advanced reconnaissance equipment at the time that was strapped to this thing. So I like to think of jets as sports cars, and to me, the Ford GT, even though near and dear to my heart, it ain't got nothing on this, because look at this bad boy. You've got the lines that just give it the ability to just cruise through high altitude at supersonic speeds, approaching hypersonic speeds, 3.3 Mach, 2,193 miles per hour, coast to coast in about an hour. Do you imagine? You're just chilling in New York and you got a friend who's in LA. You're like, hey, yeah, I'll see you in about an hour. Dude, just wild to think about. But at the time, something that was very interesting about the skin of the SR-71 is that it's actually made from titanium. So if you built this just normal aircraft skin, it would melt because it could get up to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit when you get that much friction at Mach 3.3. So they're like, well, we need something a little more advanced, titanium. Well, where do we get titanium from? And this is the ironic part. They got the titanium from the Soviet Union, which this jet was built to do strategic reconnaissance of. The windshield in the SR-71 was 2 inches of quartz because normal glass would just melt. So they used quartz, and you could still see through the quartz that they used, and that protected the pilots from 1,000-degree heat. So really interesting history behind this thing, and the fact that the engines are continuously afterburning. It creates a diamond pattern that goes out, and you've heard me say that a couple times now. But the fact that it has that diamond pattern is because the engine is traveling at supersonic speeds inside of the engine. So the airflow comes in, and it has to be slowed down by that big cone that we talked about earlier, goes into the engine, creates that diamond pattern through supersonic turbofans, and that's why you get that trademark diamond. This thing's just blinging. It knows it's cool. It's like, not only am I gonna look awesome, not only am I named the Blackbird, but I've got diamonds coming out of my engines. No big deal. And people have asked too, why is the SR-71 black? Well, black, the color black, dissipates and absorbs heat at the same time. So you kind of get the best of all worlds. You put this thing up super high, you're close to the sun, you're going Mach 3.3, 2,000 miles per hour, so you've got the friction, you've got the sun, the heat coming from that is incredible at that altitude because you don't have any atmosphere to protect yourself. Up at 85,000 feet, you're incredibly close to the sun, so now you have to protect the airframe from that as well. Just an incredible feat of engineering. So as I look at this thing, I think of all the engineers behind it, and it just kind of blows my mind. I just want to fly the thing. I'm glad I didn't have to build it, because I don't know if my brain could come up with building it, but my brain definitely wants to fly it. Let me know in the comments below if you want to fly it as well. So the SR-71, while incredible, quick teaser for you, I'm standing right next to an F-117, and this is the aft end of the F-117. It's actually being 3D printed, and I'll tell you why it's being 3D printed on a follow-on video, so definitely check out that video. But yeah, we got the F-117, one of the stealthiest aircraft ever made, right here next to me. So I'll give you a peek of that, little teaser on that one. And then the SR-71, and we're gonna go drop this thing down using those crash recovery bags. So let's go check it out. So we're getting set up to get the hoses actually connected in to the bag. So you can see the hoses behind me. And then if you come over here, you've got all the dials. So no big deal. Just you gotta know a few different levers to pull, you know, at least it's not a lot. So you've got the different stations set up to where here we've got the front bag is gonna be controlled by that station I just showed you. And you've got the different hoses there. Those are all gonna go to this bag. We've got the different stations. They each are gonna have their own control units. So we're setting up, well, not we, they are setting up the different control stations that are gonna control this middle section. So you got the hoses over there for the middle section, and then you've got the different gauges over there. So there'll be people running each one of these, which is really cool. So they're really gonna have to work together to make sure they're all lifting at the same time. So I'm really excited to see that. So now we're at the back station, the aft station. And do each one of these stations go to one set of bags, or are these gonna go to the 2 sets back there?
This is gonna go to
Both back ones? Okay, cool, thanks. So this one's gonna go to both back bags, and so that'll be lifting the back end up at the same time. And the back bags are kind of there primarily to keep this thing from tipping backwards and kind of falling back on its engine. So that would not be a good day. Pretty sure these things costed about $1 billion, so you don't wanna tip these things on their side. That would be bad. So this thing's an air compressor, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we got an industrial size air compressor. What's going to be your job during the whole operation?
Just cranking the air so the bags get pressure.
Okay, he said cranking the air so the bags get pressure. So we don't have them mic'd up, but cool, man. We're excited to see you do it.
Yep.
So he'll be cranking the air out of this air compressor, making sure that all the different sections are getting what they need. And it's going to be cool to see it all happen at the same time. So they're getting all of the hoses connected to the bags to then go to the control panel, which is then going to be connected to a massive air compressor. So these are the hose intakes here.
That's what I was saying.
So all those are going to connect in to right there. No big deal. I feel like it's kind of like running a locomotive is what it reminds me of. Boop, boop. here you got a shot of everybody doing their thing. I mean, just seeing this team operate to make it happen, all of them working together like this is really cool to watch. Again, I just like looking at the SR-71, the front of it. It's like a plane that squats. This thing obviously works out. Give you guys a little view of the cockpit here. And so like I was saying before, those cockpit windows are made of quartz. They've got gold mixed into them and probably some things we don't even know about. But they had to put up with 1,000-degree Fahrenheit temperatures, which is, I mean, it's a little bit hot. It's sort of hot, whatever. No big deal. There's a rumor too that pilots would warm up their food by placing them against the window. You basically cook your food on the window of this bad boy. The friction causes a lot of that heat. I mean, you start going that fast, you get that much airflow and friction across an airframe. And it's also an interesting scenario because if you're up at 85,000 feet, it's super cold up there. I mean, don't quote me on this, but you're looking at probably, let's just say, minus like 70 degrees, something like that, probably even more than that, up at 85,000 feet. And then you combine that with the crazy amount of friction. So you've got extreme cold and you've got extreme heat kind of combining to test everything, which is just gonna be a crazy situation for windows, for sealants. So the fact that you could get up to altitude and have these windows just completely sealed was a feat of engineering within itself. You got the front seat there, you've got where the Wizzo sits in the back. Just real cool setup. I like how the Wizzo's actually up a little bit. I would prefer that. I wouldn't want to be right directly behind somebody. I've flown aircraft where you are directly behind somebody, and it is not comfortable. You got to look around their head to land and things like that. So having the Wizzo back there, just having a view like that is going to be huge. Just for comfort, you know. If we're going to be fast, we're going to look this cool, we're going to be rolling in the Blackbird, we might as well have some comfort too. Maybe a espresso maker, biscotti, some wool seats would be nice. Is that too much to ask? And then just looking down, fuselage here, you can see the clean lines, just the way that this thing's put together. Everything had a purpose. So the way that the different joints come together were meant to contract and expand, which is just an insane feat of engineering. And now we're getting close to this thing actually dropping down. And the whole point of this thing dropping down is to get this nose gear on the ground. So all these things are being built to literally get the nose gear on the ground. And then once you get that on the ground, it's going to be towed out of here into a new spot, and they're going to have to do the exact same thing. Rebuild all of these to lift it back up and get it back onto that. But when it comes to a 170,000 pound aircraft, fully fueled, 60,000 pounds dry is what we're looking at right here. Lifting up 60,000 pounds, not easy. So again, you got to build these different structures, put these bags on top of it and go through all of this. And then after it's dropped down, tear it down again. And you're like, cool, all right, guess we're gonna go do it somewhere else. So that's just how it goes when you're doing something this complex. You gotta really, really have attention to detail to build these structures just for that little 4 feet or whatever it's about to drop. Looks like about 4 feet. All right, so check out the organization of the tubes. The reason why they're doing that is to make sure they have everything go into the correct spot. And again, attention to detail, making sure it's perfect. Because if you have one going to the wrong spot and you control a lever that's going to the wrong spot, now you're gonna lift the wrong bag, potentially shift this whole aircraft and make it fall. So stakes are really high to make sure that we get this thing lifted correctly. And that's why each one of these is lined up so precisely. Just like, you know, the precision of flying an aircraft, this crew's lowering this aircraft and moving it around with that same type of mindset and that same precision, which is really cool to see. So let's take a peek at the different cables now. The hoses, this is the different bags that they're gonna go to. And then plugging it in. There we go. I just think it's really cool watching each one of these set up, and they all have to be perfectly plugged into the exact right receptacle, followed down. It's like oddly satisfying watching this. And then they're lined up perfectly here. Flow around. Right into the bag. And it looks like each bag's got 3 hoses going to it. And again, we talked about the different compartments inside the bags. So very, very cool setup that they have here. We're gonna give you a shot from, this is how it would look if they trusted me to run this thing. This is what I would be doing. This is what I'd be looking like. But strangely enough, they don't trust me to do that. I don't know why. So here we go, getting them plugged in. We're getting close. It's almost game time, baby. So remember, one wrong move with one of these bags, one of these levers goes to the wrong place at the wrong time, boom, this SR-71 could fall over. So that's why everybody's getting a little bit, I'm noticing a little bit of the tension, just a little bit. Everybody's getting a little bit like, all right, it's almost game time. And this is happening at different stations. So we've got 3 different stations. You've got one for the very front, you've got one for the middle, there's a whole nother station over there, and then you've got one down here at the back that's gonna run the 2 bags in the back. So this is like a huge operation. Again, making sure that it's all done in concert together at the same time. And that's why you got sharp people doing it. And I asked them if I could do it. They said next time. So I don't know if that's like, they're just trying to make me not ask or what, but. So we're getting closer. We got station, I'll call it station 1 here. You've got, these are all connected to the very front part. So this is going to be the highest lifted one. So this one's going to have the most bags to get this thing up the highest, because it's got to reach the highest. Since the jet's the highest right here at this point. And then you got the control system for it right back here, which they wouldn't let me run. I don't know why. And then coming down here, we've got some safety cables being hooked in. So making sure everything's backed up, and that's why you've got these big, huge anchors here. Pretty insane. So they're tightening that in right now. And then you've got station 2 right here. We've got all the cables for station 2, the hoses running down, going to, we'll call it the middle bag section here. And then we'll walk you through, so nice little shot of the SR-71 engine, because why not, you know? Who doesn't want to see that? And now you've got the bags underneath here. All the way across, you got those 2 bottom bags. And then that station is going to be run by this station back here. So those 2 stations will be that one. So you've got 3 total that are going to have to work together, and we're getting closer and closer. As you can see, they're getting the landing gear hooked in right there. And that's going to be the main point where they kind of lower the jet down. So here we go. So check out these bags. So we've got foam protectors on both sides of the bags. We've got protector up here because this is going to touch the top of the fuselage. So the key is protecting these bags, because you don't want to scrape these bags. Obviously, they're retaining a ton of air. Now, they're not going to catastrophically explode because of what we talked about before, that they have compartments inside them that a nick isn't going to make them explode, and their PSI level is super low. And when you're operating in an environment where there's things that could snag it and catch it, obviously you got to have that. But you're still going to protect it. So you're going to use this protection here on the top. This foam is going to protect it from the fuselage. And then you've got foam on the bottom that's protecting it from this metal pallet, that there could be irregularities in the pallet that could scrape the bags as well. So both sides are protected just with a layer of foam to keep it from damaging the bags. And you got to reuse these bags over and over and over again, obviously, because they are not cheap, believe it or not. So they're getting rid of this F-16, and I asked if I could just have it, put it on my lawn. So that's where they're towing it to right now. So I'm pretty grateful for that. Could you imagine? Get your own F-16 just sitting on your lawn.
So your contact bag is going to be 2.5 to 3, right? And then you're going to have your gap bag starting from there. Once you make contact, the next bag is your lift bag. But I'm sure he'll stop us before it gets to that point. That way you can check, make sure everything's settled, everything's stable.
So do each of the bags have to be adapted individually?
Yes. So this hose that comes in the bottom is going to be our primary source of air coming in. And then each one of these will open it up, and that's how you put pressure into the bag. And you do them individually.
Do you ever feel like you're driving a train when you do that?
sometimes.
You're like a conductor.
Yeah. I didn't bring my conductor hat today though, so.
Yeah, you brought your cowboy
Yeah.
hat.
I know. I'm gonna get a bullhorn.
Those are awesome hard hats, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, those are sweet.
I mean, it makes sense, you know, if you rent more than 4 times a year, you might as well buy one.
Exactly. I like it. There's the air compressor back there.
Yep.
We got Diva right here
Howdy.
running the show. And this thing's about to get some lift. We've got the bags inflating underneath the SR-71 right now. And this is really when the rubber meets the road, because these have to be placed perfectly underneath the fuselage, otherwise they'll slip off. So each one of these bags is perfectly stacked on top of the next bag, and then it has to perfectly touch the fuselage. And then once they touch, it has to be exactly even, and every bag has to be inflated pretty much the exact same amount. So it's really an art. So watching the control systems of this, you can see that they're pretty meticulous on making sure they're adjusting each bag to exactly the spot they need it to go to. So I'm pretty sure these guys and gals, if they want to operate a train after this, it's going to be no big deal. They want to operate any other type of heavy equipment, it's no big deal with all those levers and all the different things they're keeping track of. So pretty impressive. So you can actually hear the air going in to these last few bags. There's a lot of pressure underneath them, there's a lot of pressure above them, so you can hear the air. There you go, you can kind of see it start to move. And now Diva's up there adjusting it to make sure it's exactly perfect. So he's in the danger zone right now. Whew. All right, so a last minute adjustment to make sure that it goes up into the fuselage perfectly. So yeah, like it's a game of inches, essentially like they're playing football right now. Oh, what's up guys? How's it going? I'm just enjoying this 170,000 pound SR-71 being lifted off the ground with airbags. No big deal. If you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to the channel, pop over to Patreon if you would like for more awesome content like this 170,000 pound SR-71 being lifted up like it's just, you know, a feather by these bags. Pretty incredible. The bags are all in place. Now they're pausing. You can see the tension on this cable, and they're just stopping it and making sure that nothing's gonna go wrong, because one wrong move and this SR-71 that weighs 170,000 pounds with fuel is going down. So now they're moving that nose cone out of the way. Whew. That's not a sound you want to hear every day. And it's not very often that you see an SR-71 having its nose wheel floating, just hanging out, no big deal. So we have liftoff. We got the nose wheel in the air, we got the crash bags doing their thing. We've got 4 sets, so you've got the upper crash bag, you've got the middle crash bag, and then you've got these 2 underneath the aircraft as well. And then you've got the 3 teams, you got the team 1, you got some teams in the back, some airmen in the back making sure that that's not going to tip, because they'll call up to the front if it does look like it's going to tip. Then you've got team 2 and then team 3 right there. Now the process is slowly let the air out so that the nose wheel doesn't have a hard impact on the ground. So just when you think you've got it all squared away and all doped out, it's not done yet. You got to keep going, just like you got to keep flying the jet to the very end till you land, turn the thing off. You got to keep going with this until this jet's safe, the nose gear's down, and there's no question that you're good to go. So I can actually hear the air now coming out of the bags. So they've got the nose up in the air, as you can see here. And now it's just a game of patience. You don't want to rush this. You don't want to go so fast the bags deflate too quickly, and then you get the nose gear coming all the way down, hitting the concrete and going all the way up through the cockpit. That'd be a bad day. So that's what we're trying to avoid right now. And then again, as a reminder, you've got the structure on the bottom, that Lincoln log structure. And then above the Lincoln log structure, you've got the crash bags. So that's what's getting everything up and into position. So you've got these bags that are set up in the exact correct way to make sure that when they deflate, one doesn't go too far to then throw this whole thing off and make this jet fall off of these bags. So it's really crucial that they pay attention to how the bags are deflating. That way they can make sure that this thing isn't going to tip on its back. And again, that's why you've got these two bags back here, these two sets of bags, to make sure that this thing doesn't do one of these numbers. That would be a bad day for everybody. I think there'd be some people crying, including myself. If I cried, that is. All right, so here we are on the back of the SR-71. We got Team 2 back here doing their thing, making it all happen, and then we're gonna walk around to the backside. This team back here, they're making sure that this jet's not gonna tip. If this thing tips over, it's gonna be a bad day for everybody. So here's the back crash bags. They're sitting here kind of just as backups, just in case they're needed. If this thing starts to tip, what's gonna happen is those are gonna catch it and keep it from going all the way back. That's kind of cool. That's like an APU exhaust probably. So an APU is like a second little jet engine. I'm assuming that's what that is. Second little jet engine that helps get the other engines started. Could also just be an exhaust for avionics or something like that as well. All right, so as you can see, a very slow process for a good reason, right? You don't want to rush this, but the nose wheel is slowly making its way down, and it's gonna make a nice little perfect touchdown here in a second. All right, we're almost there. The wheel is getting extremely close. So that sound is the Velcro between the bags kind of getting pulled as the jet shifts and comes down. It's obviously not going to come exactly straight down because of the air in the bags isn't going to be 100% the same. So you've got the Velcro now kind of pulling to the side. But luckily, we're like a few inches off the ground, so if it does shift, we don't have far to go. So that's going to be totally sustainable. That's going to be like a hard landing. So this thing's going to be able to take it for sure. So there you go, guys. SR-71 nose wheel is down, safe and sound, but their job is not done. This crew now has to disassemble all the bags. They have to disassemble all the platforms. So their job has kind of just begun, or it's about halfway through. So shout out to them for the attention to detail, all that hard work. Now this SR-71 can get towed out and it can get back to the gym, back to building its muscles. I'm pretty sure that's what it does all day long. Thanks for watching the video. Check out another video that'll pop up over here. And if you want to see this thing live, go to the Hill Aerospace Museum. Shout out to them for this video. Thanks for watching, guys. Most of all, have a great day.